The setting sun cast long shadows across the Willowbrook Community Garden, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. As twilight descended, most visitors had long since departed, leaving the tranquil oasis in peaceful silence. All except for one unlikely guardian. A medium-sized dog with a coat of black and white patches sat resolutely, its blue collar catching the last glimmers of fading light. For 3 days, this determined canine had refused to leave its post beside the garden's old brick well. A charming relic from the property's farming days, the well stood as a centerpiece amidst a riot of colorful flowers and lush greenery. Its wooden roof, weathered by countless seasons, creaked softly in the evening breeze. But Tyson, as the locals knew him, paid no mind to the beauty surrounding him. His attention remained fixed on the dark opening of the well. Tyson was a friendly mutt belonging to the Hartley family, who lived just down the street. Normally a sociable creature, his strange behavior had baffled everyone. He ignored calls from passers-by and even the frantic pleas of his worried owners. Food left nearby remained untouched. Instead, Tyson stood his lonely vigil, occasionally pawing at the well's brick base or emitting low, mournful whines that sent chills down the spines of those who heard them. As word spread of Tyson's strange obsession, concern grew among the community. Some dismissed it as canine eccentricity, while others whispered about animals sensing things beyond human perception. For Emily Chun, a rookie police officer with the local department, the situation tugged at her cop's intuition. "I'm telling you, Sarge, something's not right about this," Emily insisted, pacing the small office of her supervisor, Sergeant Mike Donnelly. "A dog doesn't just fixate on a well for days without a reason." Sergeant Donnelly leaned back in his creaky chair, rubbing his salt and pepper beard thoughtfully. "Chun, we're short-staffed as it is. I can't spare resources for a dog acting weird around an old well." Emily's dark eyes flashed with determination. "What if it's more than that? What if Tyson's trying to tell us something? Animals have been known to sense danger, or what?" Donnelly interrupted, raising an eyebrow. She hesitated but pressed on. "Or death. What if there's something in that well?" The sergeant's expression softened. He'd been a cop long enough to know that sometimes the wildest hunches led to the biggest breakthroughs. "All right, Chun. You got until the end of your shift tomorrow to check it out. But don't go overboard. If it's nothing, I don't want to hear another word about psychic dogs." "Understood?" Emily nodded eagerly, already forming a plan. As she left the station that evening, a chill ran down her spine that had nothing to do with the cool night air. She had no idea her decision to investigate would unravel a mystery far more terrifying than she could imagine. The next morning dawned bright and clear, but Emily's mood was anything but sunny as she approached the Willowbrook Community Garden. Tyson was still there, looking haggard and exhausted, but no less vigilant. His ears perked up at Emily's approach, the first reaction he'd shown to a human in days. "Hey there, buddy," Emily said softly, crouching near the dog. "What's got you so worked up, huh?" Tyson whined, his tail giving a half-hearted wag before his gaze returned to the well. Emily followed his line of sight, studying the old structure critically. Nothing seemed amiss at first glance. The bricks were worn but intact, and the wooden roof looked sturdy enough. Yet something about the well's dark mouth made her skin crawl. She pulled out her phone and scrolled through local missing persons reports from the past week. Nothing stood out, but she couldn't shake the feeling that she was missing something. Emily began a methodical search of the area around the well, looking for anything unusual. If you are liking the story, subscribe to the channel to get more and more interesting stories like these. And let me know where from the world are you watching the video. Back to story. As the morning wore on, curious onlookers gathered. Emily politely but firmly kept them back, establishing a perimeter around the well. She interviewed garden regulars, the Hartleys, and anyone who might have noticed anything strange in recent days. Yet no one could explain Tyson's bizarre behavior. Just as doubt began creeping in, a glint of metal caught her eye. Wedged between 2 bricks at the base of the well was a small object. With gloved hands, she carefully extracted it, her breath catching as she realized what she was holding. It was a woman's watch, its delicate gold band broken as if it had been forcibly torn from her wrist. Engraved on the back was a name that made Emily's blood run cold, a name plastered across the news just last month. This wasn't just a missing person case anymore. This was evidence of something far more sinister. And whatever dark secret lay hidden in the depths of that old well, Emily was about to uncover it. Tyson had been trying to tell them all along. With trembling fingers, Emily reached for her radio. "Dispatch, this is Officer Chun. I'm going to need backup at the Willowbrook Community Garden, and tell Sergeant Donnelly he'd better get down here. We got a situation." As she waited for backup to arrive, Emily's mind raced with possibilities, each more horrifying than the last. The sun climbed higher in the sky, oblivious to the darkness about to be dragged into the light. Through it all, Tyson kept his unwavering vigil, a silent sentinel guarding secrets that would soon shock the entire community to its core. The wail of approaching sirens shattered the uneasy calm over the garden. Emily Chin stood rooted to the spot, her eyes darting between the old well and the delicate gold watch clutched in her gloved hand. Tyson, the loyal canine sentinel, had finally settled into a lying position, his vigilance unbroken even as chaos began to unfold around him. As police cruisers screeched to a halt and officers spilled out, Sergeant Donnelly's gruff voice cut through the commotion. "Chin, what in blazes is going on here?" Emily swallowed hard, steeling herself. "Sir, I found evidence linking this well to the Jessica Moran disappearance." She held up the watch, its engraving clearly visible. "This belongs to her," and given the dog's behavior, she trailed off, the implication hanging heavy in the air. Donnelly's face paled. Jessica Moran, a local college student, had vanished without a trace 4 weeks ago. Her disappearance had gripped the community, but leads had quickly gone cold. Until now. "Seal off the area," Donnelly barked at the other officers. "Nobody gets in or out without my say-so. And somebody get me the forensics team and search and rescue. We're going to need to check that well." As the garden transformed into a hive of police activity, Emily found herself drawn back to Tyson. The dog's unwavering dedication had cracked open a case that might have otherwise remained unsolved. She crouched beside him, speaking softly. "You knew all along, didn't you, boy? You've been trying to tell us?" Tyson's tail thumped weakly against the ground, his dark eyes meeting Emily's. For a moment, she could almost imagine a glimmer of understanding in them. A hand on her shoulder startled Emily from her reverie. She looked up to see Sarah Hartley, Tyson's owner, her face etched with worry. "Officer, please, what's happening? Is Tyson in some kind of trouble?" Emily stood, choosing her words carefully. "Mrs. Hartley, your dog isn't in any trouble. In fact, he might be a hero. Can you tell me when Tyson started behaving strangely?" Sarah's brow furrowed in concentration. "Let me think. Yes, it was last Sunday afternoon. We were walking through the garden, like always, and suddenly he stopped by the well and wouldn't budge. We thought maybe he smelled a rabbit or something, but he wouldn't come home, no matter what we tried." Emily's mind raced. "Last Sunday, exactly 4 days ago, and before that?" Emily asked. Had Tyson shown any interest in the well? "Never," Sarah replied, shaking her head. "He usually just trots right past it." As they spoke, a commotion arose near the well. The forensics team had arrived and was preparing to lower equipment into the dark depths. Emily excused herself, moving closer to observe the proceedings. Dr. Amelia Winters, the lead forensic investigator, peered into the well with a high-powered flashlight, her expression grim. "There's definitely something down there," she said. "We'll need to pump out the water to get a clear look." Hours crawled by as pumps whirred and water gushed from the old well. The garden, usually a place of peace and beauty, now buzzed with tension. As the water level lowered, an acrid smell began to permeate the air, causing several officers to gag. Tyson, who had remained calm throughout the commotion, suddenly became agitated. He began barking insistently, pulling against his leash, which Sarah had finally attached. "What is it, boy?" Emily asked, her heart pounding. Tyson's reaction confirmed her worst fears. Dogs had an extraordinary sense of smell, far superior to humans. Whatever was in that well, Tyson had known all along. As if on cue, a shout came from one of the forensic team members peering into the well. "We got something." "Oh, God, it's a body." The word sent a ripple of shock through the crowd. Emily felt her stomach lurch, a mix of horror at the discovery and grim satisfaction that her hunch had been correct. But the revelation of a body was just the beginning. The forensics team continued their work, carefully extracting the remains. Gasps and muttered curses from the officers indicated this wasn't a simple recovery. Dr. Winters emerged from the well area, her face ashen. "Sergeant," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "we've got more than one victim down there. I can confirm at least 3 distinct bodies, possibly more." The impact of her words hit Emily like a physical blow. This wasn't just a tragic accident or an isolated murder. They were dealing with something far more sinister. The quiet community of Willowbrook had been harboring a dark secret, one that might never have come to light if not for Tyson's unwavering vigil. As the gravity of the situation sank in, Emily looked at Tyson with newfound respect. His strange behavior, so baffling just days ago, now made perfect sense. Dogs could detect human remains, even underwater, using their keen sense of smell. Sergeant Donnelly approached, his earlier skepticism replaced by grim determination. "Chun, I owe you an apology. Your instincts were spot on. I'm putting you on point for this investigation. Whoever's responsible for this, I want them found." Emily nodded, her mind already racing with next steps. As she began coordinating with the forensics team, she couldn't help but glance back at Tyson. The loyal dog had finally allowed Sarah to lead him away from the well, his duty fulfilled. In the harsh light of day, as the true horror of what lay in the well emerged, one thing became crystal clear. Tyson's stubborn refusal to leave the well hadn't just solved one missing person case. It had blown open what was shaping up to be one of the most shocking crimes in Willowbrook's history. Chun, a rookie cop turned lead investigator, knew the real work was only just beginning. As night fell over Willowbrook, the community garden transformed into a surreal landscape of harsh floodlights and relentless activity. What had once been a peaceful oasis now resembled the set of a macabre film, with forensic techs in white suits meticulously combing the area around the old well. Officer Emily Chin stood at the perimeter, her mind racing to piece together the horrifying puzzle unfolding before her. The initial shock of discovering multiple bodies in the well had given way to a grim determination to uncover the truth, no matter how dark. "Officer Chun," a voice pulled her from her thoughts. Emily turned to see Dr. Amelia Winters approaching, her face drawn with exhaustion. And something else, fear. "Dr. Winters, what have you found?" Emily asked, bracing herself for the worst. The forensic expert hesitated, glancing around before lowering her voice. "Emily, this is unprecedented. We've recovered 5 bodies so far, all in varying states of decomposition. But that's not the worst of it." She paused, taking a shaky breath. "The victims, they're not just from Willowbrook. We've identified individuals reported missing from at least 3 neighboring counties." Emily felt the blood drain from her face. "You're saying we're dealing with a serial killer?" Dr. Winters finished grimly. "One who's been active across a wide area, potentially for years." The weight of the revelation settled on Emily's shoulders like a lead blanket. What had started as a strange case of a dog's behavior had spiraled into something far beyond her experience. A multi-jurisdictional serial killer investigation. How was she supposed to handle this? As if sensing her doubt, Sergeant Donnelly appeared at her side. "Chun, I just got off the phone with the FBI. They're sending a team to assist, given the scope of what we're dealing with." Emily nodded, relief mingling with apprehension. The FBI's arrival would bring much-needed resources, but it also meant the case might be taken out of her hands entirely. Donnelly seemed to read her thoughts. "Don't worry. You're still lead on this. You cracked it open, so you see it through. The feds are here to support, not take over." As the night wore on, Emily found herself drawn back to the Hartley family. Tyson, the loyal dog, had been taken home, but Sarah Hartley had returned to the scene, her face etched with horror and disbelief. "I just can't believe it," Sarah muttered, shaking her head. "All those poor people, And to think we walk Tyson past that well almost every day. How could we not have known? Emily placed a comforting hand on the woman's shoulder. There's no way you could have known, Mrs. Hartley. But Tyson, he knew. Dogs have instincts we can't even begin to understand. Sarah managed a weak smile. He's always been special. Did you know he was a rescue? We adopted him from the Willowbrook Animal Welfare Society 3 years ago. They told us he'd been abused. But he's the gentlest soul. Emily's mind latched onto this new piece of information. The Willowbrook Animal Welfare Society. Could there be a connection? It seemed unlikely, but in an investigation this complex, no lead could be ignored. As dawn broke, casting pale light over the grim scene, a commotion near the well caught Emily's attention. One of the forensic techs was excitedly waving Dr. Winters over. Emily followed, her heart pounding. "We found something else," the tech explained, holding up a small evidence bag. Inside was a tarnished silver charm bracelet. It was lodged in a crevice, separate from the bodies. Dr. Winters examined the bracelet closely, her eyes widening. "This is no ordinary jewelry," she murmured. "Look at these charms. They're custom-made. Each one looks like it could represent a victim." Emily leaned in for a closer look. The charms were indeed unusual. Tiny silver figures, each unique. A ballet dancer, a graduation cap, a chef's hat, and more. With growing horror, she realized the implication. "It's a trophy," she whispered. The killer kept mementos of each victim. The discovery of the bracelet sent shockwaves through the investigation team. It was a crucial piece of evidence, one that could help identify more victims and provide insights into the killer's twisted psychology. As the FBI team arrived and was briefed on the situation, Emily found herself swept into a whirlwind of activity, compiling victim profiles, constructing timelines, and discussing potential suspects. Yet, despite the flurry of efforts, they seemed no closer to identifying the killer. Mid-afternoon brought an unexpected and chilling turn. Emily was reviewing security camera footage from businesses near the garden when something caught her eye. A familiar figure was walking a dog past the garden entrance. But it wasn't Sarah Hartley with Tyson. Her breath caught in her throat as she rewound the footage. The timestamp on the footage showed it was from 2 nights ago, well after Tyson had begun his vigil at the well. Yet, clear as day, a man was walking a dog that looked remarkably like Tyson. Emily's mind raced. Could Tyson have left his post without anyone noticing? It seemed unlikely, given how many people had observed the dog's constant presence. Which meant, "Oh my God," she whispered, the realization hitting her like a physical blow. She scrambled for her phone, dialing Sarah Hartley's number with shaking fingers. "Mrs. Hartley," she said the moment the call connected, trying to keep her voice steady, "I need you to check something for me. Is Tyson with you right now?" There was a pause. Then Sarah's confused voice came through. "Yes, he's right here." "Why? What's wrong?" Emily's heart pounded. "I need you to bring him to the garden immediately. And whatever you do, don't let him out of your sight." As she ended the call, her thoughts swirled. If Tyson had been at home with the Hartleys, the dog in the security footage wasn't him. Which meant there was another dog, one that looked just like Tyson. Suddenly, with terrifying clarity, Emily understood. The killer hadn't just been dumping bodies in the well. They had been hiding in plain sight, posing as a dog owner, walking past the scene of their crimes in broad daylight. The implications were staggering. Not only was the killer likely a local, but they had been brazen enough to return to the well, even after Tyson had begun his vigil. And now, with the police presence exposing their dumping ground, they knew their secret was out. Emily rushed to brief Sergeant Donnelly and the FBI team on her discovery. A chilling thought lodged in her mind. If the killer realized they had been exposed, what lengths would they go to cover their tracks? And now that Tyson had unwittingly unmasked their crimes, would the heroic dog become their next target? The race to uncover the killer's identity had become a desperate sprint against time, with not just justice, but innocent lives hanging in the balance. The Willowbrook Community Garden, once a haven of tranquility, now thrummed with tension as dusk settled over the town. Floodlights illuminated the scene, casting long, eerie shadows across the grounds. Officers maintained a tight perimeter, Forensic teams scoured the area for evidence, and FBI agents conferred in hushed tones. Emily's focus, however, was entirely on the approaching figures of Sarah Hartley and Tyson. The loyal dog trotted alongside his owner, seemingly unaware of the crucial role he was about to play. "Mrs. Hartley, thank you for coming so quickly," Emily said, her voice tight with urgency. She knelt down, running a hand gently over Tyson's head. "Hey there, boy. We need your help one more time." Sergeant Donnelly approached, his brow furrowed. "Chin, you better be right about this. We're putting a lot of resources into your hunch." Emily nodded grimly. "Trust me, sir. If I'm right, we're about to blow this case wide open." With Tyson leashed and ready, Emily led the small group to a line of police vehicles parked nearby. One of the officers opened the back of a van, revealing a row of dogs, each similar in size and coloring to Tyson. "Mrs. Hartley," Emily said, turning to Sarah, "I need you to walk Tyson past these dogs. Let him approach them if he wants to. We're looking for any unusual reaction." Though puzzled, Sarah complied, slowly leading Tyson past the van. The dogs sniffed at each of the others, showing no particular interest until they reached the last one. Suddenly, Tyson's demeanor changed. A low growl rumbled from his throat, and his hackles rose. "That's it," Emily breathed, her heart racing. "That's our imposter." As if on cue, the dog in question began barking frantically, straining against its leash. The commotion caught the attention of a man standing near the perimeter. Emily's sharp eyes fixed on him, noting his pale face and the way his hand twitched toward his pocket. "FBI, don't move!" The shout came from Special Agent Marcus Rivera, who had been observing the proceedings. In a flash, the man turned and bolted, shoving his way through the gathered onlookers. What followed was a heart-pounding chase through the streets of Willowbrook. Fueled by adrenaline and determination, Emily sprinted after the suspect, Agent Rivera close behind. The chase twisted through narrow alleyways and over fences, the sound of pounding footsteps echoing through the quiet streets. Driven to desperation, the man pushed himself to increasingly reckless measures. Finally, they cornered him in a dead-end alley. His chest heaved as he turned to face his pursuers, wild-eyed and cornered. The dim light revealed a dangerous mix of fear and rage etched into his face. "It's over," Emily called out, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "We know about the well, about the victims, and about your dog. It's time to end this." For a moment, he froze, as if weighing his options. Emily thought he might surrender. Then, with terrifying speed, his hand shot into his jacket. Emily's training took over. Her hand flew to her weapon, her voice sharp and commanding. "Drop it. Now." Agent Rivera's voice joined hers, ringing with authority. "FBI, don't move." Time seemed to slow. Emily could hear her own heartbeat thundering in her ears, her grip tightening on her weapon. The air was electric, charged with tension. Then, as if a spell had been broken, the man's shoulders slumped. A small object clattered to the ground, its metallic gleam catching the faint light, the charm bracelet. Rivera moved in swiftly, securing the suspect in handcuffs. As the man was led away, Emily felt a wave of emotions surge through her: relief, exhaustion, and profound sadness for the lives lost. But amidst the sorrow was a quiet pride. They had done it. They had caught a serial killer. And it had all started with one dog's unwavering vigil. In the days that followed, the full extent of the killer's crimes came to light. Arnold Graves, a seemingly unremarkable local gardener, had exploited his position to identify and target victims across multiple counties. His dog, a Tyson lookalike named Ripper, had served as an unwitting accomplice, providing a facade of normalcy as Graves disposed of bodies in the old well. The charm bracelet proved to be a vital key, helping identify many of the victims and bringing long-awaited closure to grieving families. The Willowbrook Animal Welfare Society, where both Tyson and Ripper had been adopted, was cleared of any wrongdoing. However, they implemented stricter background checks for future adoptions to ensure such a tragedy could never happen again. As for Tyson, he became a local hero. The Hartley family was inundated with interview requests and book deal offers, all of which they politely declined. They preferred to let Tyson return to the quiet life he had known, a life far removed from the dark secrets he had unearthed. On a crisp autumn morning, weeks after the arrest, Emily found herself back at the Willowbrook Community Garden. The old well had been sealed, a memorial plaque installed nearby to honor the victims. The garden, once a crime scene, was bursting with new life, vibrant flowers swaying gently in the breeze. Lost in thought, Emily was startled by a familiar bark. She turned to see Sarah Hartley approaching with Tyson at her side. The loyal dog wagged his tail in greeting, his eyes bright and free of the burdens he had borne. "Officer Chen," Sarah said warmly, "Tyson and I were hoping we'd run into you. We wanted to thank you for everything." Emily crouched down, scratching Tyson behind the ears. "I should be thanking him. Without Tyson, who knows how long Graves might have continued his crimes?" Sarah nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "He's always been special. I just never realized how special until now." As they walked together through the revitalized garden, Tyson trotted happily between them, oblivious to his pivotal role in unmasking a killer. Emily reflected on the strange twists of fate that had led to this moment. A dog's instinct, a rookie cop's hunch, and the dark secrets hidden beneath a quiet town. Together, they had illuminated the shadows. "You know," Emily said thoughtfully, "in all my training, they never taught us how a dog might help solve a case. But Tyson here, he's taught me something invaluable. Sometimes the most powerful instincts for justice come in the most unexpected packages." As the sun climbed higher, casting its warm glow over Willowbrook, Emily felt a renewed sense of purpose. The world could be a dark place, full of unimaginable horrors. But it was also a place where loyalty, determination, and the unbreakable bond between humans and animals could shine a light into even the darkest corners. Behind them, the old well stood silent, its secrets laid bare. And as Emily walked away, she knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, she would face them with the same unwavering dedication Tyson had shown. For in the end, justice wasn't just about solving crimes. It was about standing vigil against the darkness, no matter how long it took. If you were in this story, who would you choose to be? And how would you change the story? Would you still make it like this? Or it will make a difference? Let me know your thoughts in my comments. Thank you for watching the story, and may God bless you and your children.